from sea to shining sea and everywhere in between.
Wherever you are around the country.
This is America's Outdoor Talk program, Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week.
Get the kids, get the dog, get the cat. Sit them all down next to the radio. We are going to be talking about the great outdoors today.
And now, with America's latest news and talk on the great outdoors.
This is a dangerous place, man. You've got 1,000-pound bears wanting something that you have.
Here's your host, Alex Langer.
Good morning, everyone. It's your host, Rob Doherty, from the Southern Outpost to Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. Alex is off on a mission, a very secret mission. What a lot of y'all don't know is Alex is actually part of the CIA. No, I'm not going to get any of that stuff started. I'll have people believing that. Alex is off, and that lets me come talk with y'all, and I love that. And that lets me get to hear all these awesome reports that we're going to have this hour. Of course, in the next segment, Ron Lindner will be coming on and giving us a report from Lindner's Angling Edge. It's always interesting to hear what he's going to have to say. Larry Whiteley will give us a Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World report in the segment following that. And then I will be talking with one of my all-time heroes. I mean, anytime I get to talk with Bill Dance, don't you know I'm going to be right up here in front of this microphone with this headset on just for y'all? Of course I am. So we will get to talk with Bill Dance today. And in the next segment, Sammy Lee will be giving us a Tight Lines report, Mr. Holly Jolly himself. And then Wade Bourne will be giving us his Wired to Fish report. Always interesting to hear what Wade and Sammy and Larry have to give us. But we'll be talking with Bill Dance, and one of the things that I have to thank Bill profusely for is those of y'all that know me know very well that I volunteer for a camp for children and adults with cognitive disabilities, the Abby Rogers Civitan Camp down here in South Mississippi, and surprise, surprise, I run the boating and fishing activity. Now, these anglers that you hear me talking with on the radio, Shaw Grigsby, Jimmy Houston, Bill Dance, these are the kind of guys that I can be at camp and have a camper out in the boat that knows who they are, and we aren't catching fish, and it's not much of a session for them that day. And these guys will take the time to talk with that camper on the phone, and you've got to know that makes these campers week, their year. And then not only that, I've got 2 adult campers, and during the adult session of camp, we allow the campers to pick what activities they want to do. I've got 2 campers that for all 4 activity periods of every day of camp, they just put down fishing. These guys, Bill Dance autographed them a hat and sent for me to give to them, and that made their year. I had to tell them, hey, you cannot wear this one. This is one that you leave on the shelf. So we are going to come back with Lindner's Angling Edge in the next session, and we will be back, and then we'll be talking with Bill Dance in the bottom part of the show. So y'all stick around. This is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. Don't y'all go anywhere. Twist the knob off. Well, nobody's got knobs on their radios anymore. Mash that button where it can't get mashed no more. We'll talk to y'all on the other side of the Lindner's Angling Edge report.
Hi, folks. Ron Linder here for Seafoam, the world's greatest gas additive. You put it in your boat, you put it in your auger, you put it in your four-wheeler. If you've got anything with gas cylinder indexes, you use Seafoam. It keeps everything running. And also, Linder Angling Edge Television, seen every week on weekend, actually all during the week on the Pursuit Channel. You can see us on the World Fishing Network. You can see us on the Outdoor Channel, as well as a host of the Fox Net programs, depending on where you are in the country. Okay, in a couple of weeks, actually, we are preparing to go to ICAST. This is the Fishing Tackle Industries Trade Show. This year, it's going to be in Orlando, in Florida. Sometimes it used to be in Vegas, which I thought was always a waste of people there, but they didn't show up for the meetings that much. But anyway, it's going to be in Orlando, and what I've noticed is in the last 50 years that I've been in this business, that there's been great change. Back then, they had the shows, and it was the most important thing. This is when they would display their wares. The various companies would show all new stuff for the coming year, and these tackle trade shows were big deal. Nowadays, it's probably second thought stuff. Most of the stuff that they've got are not unveiled here. They're either unveiled at the Bassmaster Classic, they're done online, they're done at sports shows. I mean, it's all over the place. So it's really changed. Actually, a lot of stuff is unveiled on their own websites. So in the old days, we used to go, anybody that was in the industry, you would sit there and walk the aisles. You just see this one, that one, this one, that one. You go see Rapley, you go see Berkeley, which was pure fishing today. And you'd go down and you would see all their stuff and seeing what the new electronics were, and the new rods and new reels and the new line, and whoever had anything new. The big deal was what's new. Well, they do it a little different nowadays. Now, while they still have this show, it's really post operative, as it were. A lot of stuff is sold already. They've sold stuff to Walmart. They've sold stuff to Bass Pro, Cabela's, all these other stores, the mortar and brick stores, or a lot of stuff that's Tackle Warehouse that's online. They've already went to it. So it's a different world, a totally different world. We've got some products actually right here. We have to, when we make commercials for a lot of these people. And early on, like a year and a half ago, we signed non-disclosure statements when we're shooting their commercials. In other words, we're showing the workings of this thing over here, but our guys and our cameramen got to sign non-disclosure statements that they don't call up whatever the competitor is and tell them, hey, tackle company A is coming out with this new secret lure you ought to know about. No, we get to use them too, by the way. We practice with them. In fact, and I will not even name the name. We were using some stuff here that we found a flaw in. And it was really interesting. I won't even tell you what the company is. You need not to know or even what error was, but we found a major flaw in it, which is interesting because we got to use the thing. They went and had it made overseas. It came over here, and they did not know it was there. We got some of the first usage, and we caught it while we were in the process of making the commercial. What the heck was happening here? And there was a flaw. So it was interesting. Anyway, you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of new stuff now. Not like it used to be. You know, the unveiling of the trade show in the old district, one of the biggest events in all tackledom. Today, it's they dribble the stuff out. You start hearing stuff at the Bassmaster Classic already. You start seeing stuff online on websites. You see on other guys' sites, on these TV shows that play 24/7, 365. You know, you got at some fishing show, Joe the Pro is on hawking sub for somebody on one of the many channels, us included, of course. So you're seeing a lot of this stuff way before the public at large is. But at any rate, it is still an event, and some of the stuff is going to be unveiled. Until then, this is Ron Linder calling in, giving you a report on the goings of the fishing tackle world, and brought to you, of course, by Seafoam, the world's greatest gas additive, and Linder Media, and Linder Angling Edge Television. See you later, folks.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
I don't know how to talk like a parent. Don't make me come back there. You see what I mean? It's pretty awful. Try it again. Don't make me come back there. Now that's pretty good. That one kind of sounded like my dad. Weird.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Prop baits coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Would you like to spend less time on the couch and more time in the fresh air? Would you like your kids to stare at a bobber instead of the TV? Would you gladly trade in your microwave for a Dutch oven? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Most prop baits look like stick baits with a propeller at one or both ends. Prop baits are one of the noisiest of surface lures, and like buzz baits, they trigger reaction strikes from big bass. Use a prop bait when fishing specific targets. Now fish the lure on a stout bait casting outfit and cast close to cover, not way beyond it. And rather than jerking the rod so the lure gurgles and slushes, try moving the tip gently, just enough to make the propellers barely turn. Big bass will really attack a prop bait retrieved in a slow, teasing manner. Prop baits are the best surface bait when it's windy or stormy. In these conditions, jerk the rod harder to make the lure spit water with more gusto. Attach a 5-inch soft jerk bait to the rear treble and cast the tandem rig into a surfacing school of bass. Chug it once or twice and then let it sit still. Often you will catch 2 bass at one time. I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Thank you, Larry Whiteley, for that Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World update. Always a pleasure to hear what you have to say. Folks, this is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost of Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. And with me this morning, I kind of teased to it. One of the reasons I love doing this radio show is I get to talk to folks like this. And I mean, this is the crown king of bass fishing. Why would I not be piled up in front of this microphone with this headset on? Mr. Bill Dance, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there like a loose tooth, as you told me one time.
Well, you're doing okay then.
Now, look, one of the things that's going on is we are easing off into that good old July weather. You got to love that.
I'm telling you.
And now, what are some of the things that we're seeing? Because I know that you've been fishing like a fiend. You've been putting some shows on tape. What kind of methods have you been using to catch these fish as they're moving to that deeper water?
Well, surprisingly, we're going to have about a 60-degree night here in a couple. I think tomorrow night around about a 64-degree night. We had a cold front come in here, a little cool front. We had a real cool morning this morning, in fact, but it really is not changing the water temperature that much. But we had a pretty good topwater bite of the morning, and of course it knocked it in the head, this cold front that came through. But you're right, we are in the dog days of summer. In some of our lakes, our fish have begun to move deep. I was over at Table Rock about 2 weeks ago, and those fish have already moved. Many of them have moved from 18 to 24. They're moving on down to close to 28 feet. But we've also, in other lakes, I found that smaller bodies of water, they've already started to form a strata. And a lot of fish, surprisingly, are still real shallow. You've got some deeper fish, but you've got, like at Pickwick Lake on the Tennessee River,
right.
It's surprising how many good fish are still shallow. A buddy of mine that goes out at night, he likes to bow hunt, and it was surprising to him how many big fish he's still seeing in shallow water, even while he's bow hunting at night. But the dog days of summer, I usually do a lot of night fishing. That's when I'd like to night fish because of the hot sun, and I do a lot of moving water fishing during this time of the year. So I have my best success normally during these hot days. Not only it's just a comfortable time to fish at night, and because it's cool, but
tough to film.
It's a peaceful time. Do what?
It's tough to film, though.
Well, I know it. We used to shoot some night shows, but now we're shooting high definition, and it requires such a tremendous light source to do night shows. But it sure is a comfortable time to fish. And, of course, moving water is still my favorite form of fishing, and I do a lot of that, wading creeks and fishing small rivers and stuff, and spend a lot of time doing that at this time of the year. But like I said, there's still a lot of shallow fish can be caught. But, you think the hot summer that a lot of fish go deep. And some lakes they do, especially in our highland reservoirs. But it's surprising how many fish in these small 5, 10, 15, 50, 100, 200, 300-acre lakes will remain shallow, because most of these lakes, as I said, will form a strata at 50% of the depth. If the lake is 30 feet deep, that strata will normally form at 15 feet. If the lake's 20 feet, the lake will form at 10 feet. If the lake is 12 feet, the strata will normally form at 6 feet. And by that I mean everything in the water column will move up in that upper 50% of the lake. And
that's
so
due to
the
oxygen.
carrying capacity of the lake has been reduced to 50%. So the fish will remain shallow because the oxygen levels are in that shallower water. So you fish won't go deep. There's no oxygen in that deeper depth.
Right. Well, now we're about to trail off into break, and I do want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back into the next segment.
Absolutely.
Because you have touched on to something that has always interested me, and everybody asked when I go out and I jump in a lake. When I was swimming, you get hot, you jump off in the lake, and I'm going down and I'm putting my hands up to see how deep it is before I feel that temperature change, and that tells me how deep to fish.
Right.
All right. Well, folks, this is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost of Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. We are talking with the king of bass fishing, and not only bass fishing, saltwater fishing too. If y'all hadn't seen his saltwater series, that's worth taking a look. Mr. Bill Dance. We will be right back after these messages. Don't y'all go anywhere.
Papa was a fishing man. Papa was a fishing man. He loved his cars and his steel guitars. Papa was a fishing man. Ooh, a fishing man.
Wow, hold on to that, and that's a good one since 1984. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
On my last program, Dr. Gary Monheit started discussing skincare with me. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. In just a moment, Dr. Monheit will tell us about skin cancers and what they look like. But first, this message. You know, a successful fishing trip is all about being prepared. So when you head out this year, make sure you've got your rod, your reel, your favorite lures, and your FishMate Pro, the app that's like an electronic tackle box right there in your hand. FishMate Pro gives you the best fishing times for where you're fishing, plus the moon phase, color weather radar, and a barometric pressure chart. Then FishMate Pro can display your catch and mark the spot with GPS coordinates. Get ready for great fishing this year and get FishMate Pro.
Get yours at connectedllcapps.com.
On my last program, dermatologist Dr. Gary Monheit of Birmingham, Alabama, said there are 3 types of skin cancers that all outdoorsmen need to be aware of. So today, I've asked Dr. Monheit to tell us what to look for if we suspect that we may have a skin cancer.
Basically, the recognition, to recognize a skin cancer is a growth that doesn't proceed along normal lines, such as basal cell carcinoma many times looks like a pimple that doesn't heal, a sore that doesn't heal. The usual healing time of any of these should be 3 weeks. If anything doesn't heal in 3 weeks, a bump, a pimple, a knot, a red spot, then it should be suspected. A colored mole that suddenly comes up and that starts to enlarge. A mole that spreads out beyond its borders. A mole that's irregular in pattern, that has jagged edges. A mole that spurts out little nests of color beyond its borders. A mole that has different colors. So we all know what normal moles look like. They can be flat, they can be round. They're colored from chocolate to tan, but they're not usually coal black. They're not usually spotted with red, sometimes white, sometimes blue. Those are the things that we look at. If you see, you should have these checked by your doctor because they may be developing or have already turned into a skin cancer.
So if you're not certain about that spot on your arm, then folks, please get it checked. I'll be back with more after this.
It was a simpler time, a time of hope and faith in the future. People from all walks of life in countries all over the world fell in love with the flying lure. Just a simple fishing lure that does something astounding. Like no other bait, it swims right into the fish's hiding place away from you. Simple, powerful. Go to flyinglure.com. Anyone can learn the simple secrets of catching lunkers with the flying lure. The flying lure's back in town.
Dr. Gary Monheit will be here again next time to talk about sunscreens and which one you need to use to protect you while fishing. So I hope you'll join us. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, tight lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by FishMate,
The ultimate fishing app for your smartphone.
and by UFP.
America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers.
Be sure to check out Sammy's souvenirs at www.tightlinesradio.com to proudly show off that you listen to the #1 radio fishing show in America.
Thank you, Sammy Lee. Always interesting to hear what you're going to have to report on with the Tight Lines report. And Bill, you know Sammy, that guy. Have you ever seen Sammy when he just doesn't have a beaming smile on his face?
18 years old on Smith Lake in Alabama. That Sammy'd make a freight train take a dirt road.
He will talk an ear off now.
He's a good old boy. Yeah, Sammy's a good friend of mine. Known Sammy a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, one of the things in the last segment that we were talking about, we were talking about the strata, and this show is heard way up north where they don't deal with the temperatures that we end up with down here. And
Right.
As you know, I'm down here in Hattiesburg. Our water temp right now is about 88, 89 degrees.
Yeah, it's getting hot.
So,
Well, see, the hotter the water gets, less oxygen it holds. Less oxygen molecules it holds. The colder the water gets, you get more saturation. It's easier to hold more oxygen in cold water than it is in hot water. But what these ponds do, like we were talking about, these ponds, small lakes, they form a strata, and that strata will normally form at 50% of the depth. So if the pond, as I said, if the pond's 40 feet deep, normally the strata will form at 50% of that, which is 20 feet. If the pond is 20 feet deep, that strata will normally form around 10 feet deep. So everything in the pond or the lake, the difference in a pond and a lake has to do whether you're buying or selling. You know, if you're selling, it's a lake. If you're buying, it's a pond. But it really has to do, it's this pond or this lake, whatever you want to call it, whether it be 10 acres or 300 acres or 500 acres, this strata forms, and everything in the water column now, it's reduced, the carrying capacity is reduced to 50%. And this strata normally starts to form around mid-June and goes on into July, August, September, especially in our part of the country, until cooler water temperatures come and it begins to cool off and on toward October and November. But what happens, everything in the water column moves to this upper strata. As I've said now, the carrying capacity of your lake is cut to 50%. Right. And your oxygen levels are restricted. They're low, and your higher parts of oxygen are found in your shallower depths. And the only way you can get oxygen into a body of water, a small body of water, is either through, if there's a current coming through the pond, or if you have aeration in the pond, man-made aeration put in, or caused by man-made aeration, or the key way is through a wave action, which is minute, or the other way is Mother Nature through sunlight, through photosynthesis, and through plant life.
Feeding that feeding that plankton.
Right. So too much can have a drain on it. Now, when you have too many cloudy days, it zaps it, and, of course, you don't have the sunlight to produce the photosynthesis, and as a result, that you get too many cloudy days and you get a cold rain. That cold water is heavier, and it falls through these warmer layers, and too much of that with low oxygen anyway, because of the cloud cover that you had, that's causes your fish kills in the summer months.
That's right.
One way you can eliminate a lot of that is to put in aeration. Is that a 100% cure? No, but it helps tremendously. I've got aeration in my lakes, and I've yet to have a fish kill. Not saying, would you have a fish kill? Yeah, it's a possibility I could have, but it helps tremendously to prevent a fish kill. But when you have those several 4 or 5 cloudy days, 3 or 4 cloudy days, no way to reproduce oxygen in there through photosynthesis, and then you have a cold rain, colder water is heavier than that warmer water, so when it hits it, it just falls right through it, goes to the bottom, and brings the bottom to the top and turns it over. Normally the first fish to go are your bigger fish, and so that's where you get your fish kills. So the heaviest amounts of oxygen are normally found in the real shallow water, and that's why your bigger fish and they require more oxygen, and that's why you catch a lot of big fish in a foot, 2, 3 feet of water through the hot summer months, and they don't go real deep like a lot of people seem to think they do.
Well, I got to tell you this, Mr. Dance, one of the things that I look for is that back of the cove where a little bit of a creek goes through with lots of lily pads. Any kind of vegetation cover that gives them shade, that helps.
Well, yeah, if you've got moving water, coming through there, that helps too. Any kind of cover like that, of course, the shade and like that can help too. Too much shade and too much pad cover or moss and things. Early in the morning, sometimes they'll move from that because of the lower oxygen levels that have created over the night, and then they'll move out from that, and then on up in the day they'll move back up under it. But sometimes at night there's so much draw on that, so much demand on those low levels of oxygen, because of the nighttime temperatures, the dark hours, and no way of producing oxygen. They're either given, plant life is either given or taken, and normally at night
that's right.
it's taken so much. And those fish, everything in the water column, your zooplankton, your phytoplankton, all your microscopic organisms such as that is zooplankton, and then all the fish and all the plant life and everything there is taken, and nothing's reproducing. And of course it needs sunlight the next day to replenish that, and so when you don't have that, it can have a drastic effect on your pond or your small lake.
Right. All right, folks, we are going to be back with one more segment with Mr. Bill Dance, so don't y'all go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to keep talking pond management, something a lot of people don't really think about, but if you do, it's going to put you on the fish.
Fishing off the railroad track. Got plenty of time on my hands. Got plenty of time on my hands. Living life on God's terms and a bucket full of worms. Got plenty of time on my hands.
They look different, but they're the new trend in sporting rifles. I'm talking about the AR-type semi-automatic rifles that have been big sellers in the U.S. in recent years. Some people had a bias against this rifle because of its military look. Now this perception is changing, according to Paul Pluff of Smith & Wesson. I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Fish Radio. In a minute, Paul talks about how AR-style rifles are the new wave of sporting firearms.
Stay with us. Wade will be right back.
Hey anglers, ever wanted to design your own bass boat? Well, now you can on the new website for Phoenix Boats. Log on to phoenixbassboats.com. First select your model, then choose whatever color combinations and details you want. Make your boat as personal as it can be. And while you're on the site, download the new Phoenix Boats app and check out the new Phoenix apparel line. Phoenix Boats. Winning speed, a smooth ride. Experience the difference. Log on today, phoenixbassboats.com. Advanced by design and ahead by a mile, the new M&P 10 from Smith & Wesson is the latest modern sporting rifle to bear the name of this legendary firearms manufacturer. Easy to accessorize and hard to put down, the M&P 10 is the perfect companion for this year's hunting season. So go to your local Smith & Wesson dealer or visit the company's website, smith-wesson.com, and see for yourself why so many hunters and shooters have put their trust in the M&P name.
This is Wired to Fish Radio.
Cell phones look different now from how they did just a few years ago. So do TVs and cars and lots of stuff. Things change, like firearms. AR-type rifles don't look like your dad's hunting rifle, but Paul Pluff says more people are recognizing the merits of these guns for sporting purposes.
What we're really starting to see now is more and more folks out in the field utilizing them for hunting. And they would have never thought about that, but when you think about those calibers, .223 was always a very viable varmint caliber. So we're seeing a lot of that. And now with the onset, like Smith & Wesson introduced our M&P 10, which is the that modern sporting rifle chambered in a .308. We're seeing a lot of guys out there doing whitetail hunts and even bigger hunts, whether it's pronghorn, oddad, and even elk for that matter. Guys are starting to hunt with them. And now where you're seeing, like Smith & Wesson, you're seeing companies come out with the camo versions, 20-inch barrels, fixed stocks. We're manufacturing with 5-round magazines so that, in some states where it's required that you have a magazine no larger than, it's a viable hunting gun. We're seeing more and more people utilizing it for that. It's a great thing to see. It's great to see this shift in attitude that we have in the last few years.
That's Paul Pluff of Smith & Wesson, and that's also today's Wired to Fish Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening and get outside.
Thank you, Wade Bourne, for that Wired to Fish segment. Now, Wade happens to live not too far from our guest, Mr. Bill Dance, and I believe you know Wade, don't you, Bill?
Oh, I've known Wade for years and years. I've done articles with Wade and done quite a bit of stuff with Wade over the years. Good friend, good writer, and good outdoorsman, great guy.
Yep, he is. I aspire to be like him one day when I grow up. Now, one of the things that we were talking about was, and that's one of the reasons I love having you on the show. You don't just come on and talk about fishing. You actually understand fisheries management and pond management. And you're explaining something. A lot of these folks that are listening to this radio show are from up north, and they don't understand when we start talking about how temperature is so important to us down here in the South. And a lot of them don't understand that strata. So I appreciate you talking about that. Now, let's talk about how we can take that knowledge of where we know how we use that, where the oxygen is, where the fish are going to be. How do you pull all that together to catch the fish?
Well, fish have to have oxygen to survive. There's no question about it. But oxygen levels are considerably lower, in the hot summer months than they are in the winter months. You get you get total saturation through the winter months, but the fish are, like I said, the fish are going to be normally on more shallower patterns in smaller bodies of water than they are during the summer months than they would be in deeper water like you would normally expect. A lot of people say, well, it's hot now, these fish go deep to find cooler water. Well, that's absolutely incorrect. In certain lakes, like Pickwick Lake, for instance, on the Tennessee River, where you have moving water, right now we're catching fish 28 feet deep on Pickwick. In Kentucky Lake, it's not uncommon because you have moving water. It's turning over all the time. So there's no stratification there at all. It doesn't form a thermocline or it doesn't stratify. But on still bodies of water, like, as I said, these 5, 10, 15, 200, 300-acre lakes, it does stratify. So you're normally going to find that your fish are going to be at considerably shallower on those type lakes. And this is what makes moving water, like fishing creeks and rivers, so productive through the summer months. Fish activity is going to be much greater there than it is in still bodies of water, and that's what I like to. I really like to fish moving water at this time of the year because fish they're so much more predictable than in still bodies of water. But when I'm fishing bigger type lakes right now, like I say, highland type lakes that do stratify, like highland lakes like Greer's Ferry or Table Rock or Dale Hollow or Center Hill, or we look at these big highland lakes like that.
Right.
That do form, the fish will go extremely deep. But most of the smaller lakes that we fish, where there is no current, they're going to zero in just above that strata from there up to the surface, and that's your higher levels of oxygen are going to be in the shallower depths.
That's right. That's right. And that's one of the reasons why, well, pads, they really don't put out much oxygen. You're really looking for that plankton like you're talking about and the sunny day to make oxygen.
Well, the sunlight governs that, goes, the photosynthesis and stuff. But too much you get some of these ponds that get they're extremely fertile. That can be a hindrance too. You can get too much of a bloom on a pond. That can hurt you too. So it creates just too much of a demand I've seen some ponds, just they're so fertile, and then when you get that you get those cloudy days like that. Well, I mean that's just so bad for a pond.
Right, and a lot of people don't think about this, but just the fish activity itself. And what I try to explain to folks is you've got to look at an impoundment like it's a big aquarium. You're only going to be able to put so much of a fish load in there before your fish start getting stunted. And, Bill, I could talk to you about this for hours upon hours. Unfortunately, we've got about 1 minute and 15 seconds left before the show ends. So let's talk. Make sure you tell everybody where they're going to be able to see Bill Dance Outdoors and Bill Dance Saltwater Edition.
Well, starting in right now, we're still airing on Destination America. That's one of the Discovery Channel's networks. And starting, of course, in January, when we kick off our new season, we're starting. We picked up another network for 2015, and that'll be
awesome.
The Sportsman Channel. We'll be airing there, and we'll be airing our saltwater series on the Outdoor Channel. We'll continue airing on NBC Sports, and we'll continue airing on Destination America, which is one of the Discovery Channels. So we'll be airing on 4 networks, as well as our YouTube channel.
So don't forget, folks, go to YouTube and look up Bill Dance. Folks, this is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost Outdoors this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next week.